Everything goes to him. All the praise goes to him.
Assalamu alaikum. You're going to go around you on this side. So these two mics are the same. So this one will work fine for the khutbah if you want to stand here or you want to move it to this. And for the prayer time, you can use this. And this one also works well. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So we have a pleasure today to have Dr. Adnan Rehman with us today. He's a scholar. He has a PhD from BU in theology, some difficult field in theology that I was trying to understand. And he's part of now Boston Islamic Seminary. So if you know that we are doing a program with them. And so once a month we get a khatib from them, and a speaker from them also. So he's our guest today, and I welcome on behalf of ICB. Assalamu alaikum. It's one of them. Thank you so much. So I'm going to leave this off, and whenever you need it, for the slot time, you need this so that people can hear you.
And 1:30 we begin salah.
The 1:30, and the khutbah starts at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. 2 minutes. Thank you.
Somebody's giving the adhan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. فصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. وبعد، وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن الحكيم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الآن خفف الله عنكم وعلم أن فيكم ضعفا فإن يكن منكم 100 صابرة يغلبوا 200 وإن يكن منكم 1000 يغلبوا 2000 بإذن الله والله مع الصابرين. وقال جل وعلا إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. وقال جل وعلا وأمرهم شورى بينهم ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الدين النصيحة. قلنا لمن يا رسول الله؟ قال لله ولكتابه ولرسوله ولأئمة المسلمين وعامتهم. صدق الله وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. آمين يا رب العالمين. We begin in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious, the most merciful, master of the day of judgment. He alone we worship and He alone we seek for help. Whomsoever Allah guides, whomsoever leads astray, there is none to guide them, and whomsoever Allah guides, there are none to lead them astray. And we praise and send blessings and salawat on our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let me begin by thanking the administration of this masjid for inviting me to address you. This is my first time at this center. I've never been here before. So thank you for deeming me worthy of giving this khutbah. We are living in unprecedented times. I think all of you agree with me that in our lifetime, we have just lived through the most difficult Ramadan in our lifetimes. You will all agree with me that we have just, quote unquote, celebrated the most difficult Eid, at least in my lifetime. It was difficult to celebrate because in the background of this celebration, we could hear the screams, we could see the blood splatter across the streets and on the walls and across hospital floors, and we could hear the screams and the wailing and the crying of our people in Gaza. These events, when they began, early on in the first couple of weeks, I noticed that one word was being used again and again. Something unprecedented had happened. What happened on October 7 was unprecedented. And the response that came thereafter was unprecedented. and something unprecedented was going to take place, and history had taken an unprecedented turn. And to be sure, it's correct to describe these events as unprecedented. But not everything about this cycle of violence is unprecedented. There are also many things with long-time precedents in this whole situation. First of all, what is not unprecedented that we knew another cycle of violence was coming. We knew in 2008 in Operation Cast Lead that the next cycle, in Operation Cast Lead, over 1,400 people died in Palestine, in Gaza. We knew that the next one would be coming again, and it came in 2014, Operation Protective Edge. Over 2,300 people were butchered in Gaza. And we knew another cycle was coming yet again. And so it came in 2023, on October 7th, 2023. And over 1,000 Israelis were killed. Unprecedented. And then the response, unprecedented. What is not unprecedented, what has had a very long precedent in the way the white world, the Christian world, the Western world closed in ranks and got behind the Zionist ethno-national state in Israel. Not unprecedented. Not unprecedented was the way Western media closed in ranks and began to dehumanize, vilify, denigrate our people, Islam, and Muslims. Not unprecedented at all is the level of Islamophobia that has since been unsued. Not unprecedented is that the whole world yet again stands with Palestine, and yet nothing comes of it. Not unprecedented are the countless of resolutions passed by the United Nations that come to naught. Not unprecedented, quite precedented. And in these times, our response also has not been precedented on the whole. We have cried double standards. We have cried victim. We have cried for help, and yet nothing comes of it. So what then do we do? It was very interesting that the place where I went for my first Taraweeh prayers in Ramadan, on 1st of Ramadan, there were a series of announcements that were made as to what was to be expected at that place in terms of Ramadan scheduling and whatnot. And the person making the announcement ended with this: "This Ramadan, please remember to pray for our brother and sister in Gaza, because we are powerless." That, of course, we are powerless. But when he said it, it hit me deep somewhere in my soul. And I began to think, yes, we are powerless. But are we really that powerless? Is there no potential left in us to somehow do something to change the situation of our ummah at this stage in history? And so I had to do some deep thinking. And sure enough, someone like me who is by nature cynical and pessimist, because of the situation, I knew if I do not find a sliver of hope in this situation, something deep in me was going to explode. Something deep in me was going to die. So a born pessimist, a born cynical like me had to look for signs of hope. And interestingly, they were right there, staring me on the face all along. I just never paid attention to it. And I think we also have not paid attention to it. Let me go through this. As of today, it's 188 days since this genocide. And official figures are 33,000 dead. There are people still buried in the rubble, so let's say 35,000. And let's say it's been 200 days to make the math easy. Let's do some math here. If 35,000 people have been murdered in 200 days, that comes out to be about 175 deaths per day. It may be that someone's plan is that we are going to eliminate the Palestinians by killing our way through this crisis. Then I have news for them. If the plan is to kill 175 of our people every day until every last blood, and every last soul in Palestine has been killed. Just in Gaza, which had the population of 2.3 million people before the genocide began, it would take about 36 years to kill every single Palestinian just in Gaza. That's not counting the 3 million more in West Bank. If someone thinks that their plan is to kill every single one of them, this is a failed strategy. No one is going to keep up this genocide for 36 years. Not possible. There are today just below 2 billion Muslims on this planet. We are, by numbers, the second largest religion in the world. That to us is a source of pride. But really, do these numbers translate into anything else beyond some kind of pride that we are the second largest? And right now, Muslims are about 25% of the world population, Christians are about 35%, and within 2 decades or so, Islam will be number one religion in the world in terms of population. But does such a large population translate into anything substantive in our favor? So far, no. But I would tell you, this is exactly where one of our potential lies. If the world thinks that they can get rid of Islam and Muslims by killing their way to the last Muslim, then it will take, at the rate of 175 Muslims per day, it will take the world 31,300 plus years to kill all Muslims. 31,000, and in all this time, we're not sitting home alone. We are reproducing. So that mark of 31,000 years to finish, all the 2 billion Muslims will continue to change. Al Jazeera reports that in the war of terror, 500 people were killed. Let's assume all 500 people were Muslims. That is nearly 0.025% of the total ummah. Our numbers are in our favor, are they not? That we are one of the few communities on the planet that can lose 500,000 people, and still that does not amount to about more than a quarter, 0.25% of our population. Our numbers are our strength, but we have more strengths than that. We will all agree that our first strength is what? Our religion, our faith. I know this because I'm a religious studies professor. I've been studying religion academically for about 20 years. I know the numbers. I know how other religions have fared and how Islam has fared in the modern world. We are the only religion, perhaps with the exception of Hindus, amongst all the world's great religions, that have held on to the ravages of modernity. We are the only religion in the world whose family structure has not broken down and who continue to hold on to their faith in some very real, committed ways. When you look at the religious map of the world, you will see the world is surrounded by Christianity. If you look at the population map, you will see the world is encircled by Christianity. That doesn't tell you the whole story, because I mostly teach white Christians on campuses in the greater Boston area. And I know that most of my students are barely hanging on to their faith. They identify as Christians, but their commitment to Christian practice is lukewarm. I doubt if their children will be Christian in the next generation. And when I tell them this, they have no problem with this. When I tell them your children are not likely even to be lukewarm Christians that you are, it's not a problem for them. We are the only community that continues to defy all the expectations of modernization and secularization and liberalizations that were made early in the middle of 20th century, that the whole world was going to modernize, liberalize, secularize. Muslims put a wrench in that prediction, because starting in the 80s, with the Iranian Revolution, Muslims began to resist total wholesale modernization, liberalization, secularization. Only other nation that is holding on in great numbers are Hindus. But that's a much more complex story, which I will not go into here. And so, our religion is a source of strength for us. Our family networks is a source of great, tremendous strength for us. I saw this after studying all other religions. our family networks, our strong social connections are a tremendous source of strength for us. This is beginning to break down, at least in the United States, because the divorce rate amongst the new generation of Muslims is very alarming. And if we don't reverse this, things will really go down south. But as of now, our family structure and our social networks are intact, and that's a great source of strength for us. But above all, our strength is in our numbers. You might say, well, doesn't the Quran say that numbers don't count for much? This is in Surah Baqarah, in the story of Talut and Jalut, when one of them said that, Kam min fiyatin qalilatin ghalabat fiyatan kathiratin bi'idhnillah. Has it not happened again and again that a small group of believers have overcome large groups, like David against Goliath and Talut against Jalut? And yes, if you have that quality of faith, then numbers don't matter much. Because in Badr, it was 100 against 300. In Uhud, it was 1,000 against 3,000. In Battle of Ahzab, it was the small city of Medina against 10,000 strong army of the Arabs. Didn't amount to much, did it? But problem is that we no longer enjoy that quality of faith. So we are not in a position where one of us is powerful over 10 or 2. We are in a position where one of them requires 35 one of us. Over 1,000 Israeli deaths, the blood let on our side is 35,000 people. That's a ratio of 1 to 35. And it hasn't ended yet. It may go to 1 to 50. So, al-ana khaffafa Allahu ankum wa alima annakum fikum da'fa. Allah said this to the Prophet, to the Sahaba already. You have now, after so many Muslims who have not gone through the training of Mecca at the hands of the Prophet himself, you have now become weak. This is the Sahaba. You have become weak, so whereas before one of you was greater than 10, now one of you will overpower 2 of them. That's the Sahaba. We're not the Sahaba. So when you don't have that quality of faith, then you have to rely on your numbers. And our numbers are our strength, provided we realize this and begin to use this potential and translate into strength. How so? Let me give you another set of numbers here. We, the American Muslim community, are one of the most educated and one of the most richest, prosperous Muslim communities in the world, in the Muslim world. And especially the immigrant Muslims like me, the diaspora Muslims. So according to 2020 census, there are 4 official figures, 4.45 million Muslims in America. Real figure is much larger than that. It depends, because the census counts people with religious affiliation in certain ways, and they don't really do diligent religious census. So these are estimates, 4.45 million Muslims in America. That's 1.3% of the total American population. Of these, about 35% are South Asians like me, immigrants. About 25% are Arabs, immigrants. And about 25% are African Americans, and another 15% are Hispanics and everybody else. According to research done in 2017 by the Society of Policy Study over at Dearborn, it's a Muslim organization, they report that when we look at the whole American Muslim community, our education levels match the education levels on the whole of the Protestants and the Catholics, the 2 of the largest religious groups in America. Protestants, number 1, Catholics, number 2. We match their education level. They've been here for hundreds of years. We just came back. We just got here about 50, 70, 100 years ago. Then, the American Pakistani community among the South Asians are particularly noted for their great, successful material and educational advancement in the United States. There's actually a book that has been written about this, and it profiles among all the other immigrant communities, the Pakistani immigrant community and their successes. I'm forgetting the name of the author and the book. And so the Pakistanis alone account for 2.5% to 5% of the total American physicians population. Just the Pakistanis alone. 2.5% to 5% of the total doctors in America, Pakistanis. Add to that the Turks and the Arabs, and the numbers go higher. And then in addition to that, physicians, some of the top physicians, scientists, engineers, and businessmen, the immigrant community. The immigrant community boasts that 45% of the Muslim immigrant community has income levels of more than $50,000 a year. And 19%, the average of more than 50,000 in America is 44%. Immigrant Muslims, 45%. Then those Muslim immigrants who have income levels of more than $100,000 a year, 19%. Whereas the national average is 17%. Okay? And again, these are just the Pakistanis and the immigrants. We're not counting the rest of them because we don't have numbers. What does this mean? It means we, the American Muslim community, are the most prosperous and potentially the most powerful Muslim community on this planet. If we learn and figure out how to translate this potential into political, economic, social, and intellectual capital, we can very soon change the situation. Why? Because our cousins are just about also 1.3%. Percentage-wise, the Jews in this country and the Muslims, in terms of numbers, we are equal. Yet in terms of their impact and our impact, we are zero, they have all the impact. Why? Because they have been translating their wealth and their achievements into social, political, cultural, economic gains. We have been doing something very narrow. Most of us did not come to this country to save Islam. Most of us did not come to this country to save the Ummah. We did not even come to this country to save our back home countries from where we came. We came here with a very narrow purpose of improving our own personal chances of material success and of establishing our children's socio-economic success in America. We have stayed out of politics, we have stayed away from culture, we have stayed away from building any other social capital. And in that, what we came here to do, we have been tremendously successful. In this very room, I know there are scores of stories of those of you like me who come from very humble beginning. My grandparents could not have imagined what I have achieved in one generation here in this country because opportunities were provided. Without getting involved in corruption, without slitting somebody's throat, we have played by the book, done hard work, and look at where we are today. Each one of you can tell me stories. I came here with a few $100s, and I had to live with 15, 10 other men in two-room apartment, and I had to drive taxis, and I had to make this sacrifice, and my children had to make that sacrifice. And now we have Muslims in my community, in the greater Worcester area, people who began with very humble beginnings, and today they have so much wealth, they don't know how much wealth they have. In one generation, we have been able to do this. Now, we did not come with some playbook of how to do this. We got here, we sort of figured things out for ourselves, and we have achieved what we have achieved. Now, it's time to change course. We should continue to do what we are doing for ourselves and for our families. That is essential. We must continue to build on this educational prowess that we have. We have tremendous skills. We are extremely intelligent. And so we continue to build our wealth and social networks for our families. But now it's time to take the next step. Each one of you has tremendous amount of skill sets, knowledge. You are part of great networks in the corporate world, and you have tremendous experience behind you. Some of you, decades of experience. You know not only how to build machines and how to program computers and how to fix hearts, you also know how to run huge corporations. I know a friend of mine in Las Vegas, he has recently been made the manager of two of the biggest hospitals in Las Vegas. Single man is running two hospitals. Very intelligent, very resourceful, very hardworking. And right now in this room, we have people like this. We have scores of people like this in my community in Shrewsbury and the Worcester area. And so now we should think, I have built up all this success for myself and for my family. How can I now do carry on the same level of hard work and ingenuity and try to figure out how can I, in my individual capacity, translate my successes and my achievement and my wealth in order to do something for the Ummah. We are also facing an unprecedented situation in another sense. See, for the first time in human history, the world has witnessed a genocide in real time. Never before. Before, people who would witness a genocide, say the Holocaust, it was either the victims of genocide or the perpetrators. Rest of the world finds out later when bodies have been buried and rotted away. This is for the first time in human history that the whole world has witnessed in real time, thanks to people with cameras like Mu'taz. May Allah have mercy on his soul. That the world has witnessed this in real time, and that's why the global response has been unprecedented. Israel is completely isolated. They have absolutely no moral credibility. And the whole world stands with Gaza and stands with Palestine. This is a great, tremendous moral victory. This has been made possible because for the first time in human history, we have technology at our disposal that connects us throughout the globe in real time. And for the first time in the history of this ummah, we have grieved together. We have wailed and cried together. We are protesting around the world together. We see one another. This is a tremendous moment. Why? Because every time the world experiences communications revolution or a revolution in transport technology, it changes culture and it changes history. Once the printing press got to the Muslim world, it made it possible for the Muslim world to, in no time, within few decades, to end direct colonization of Western powers. Without the printing press, we would not have been able to do this. Once the radio and television got together, new ideas began to spread. Arab Spring was a result of Al Jazeera and cable news networks. And so in this moment, in this age of social media, we have a tremendous opportunity. For the first time in our history, we brothers and sisters can, mark my words, imagine, like, and think together as an ummah. We no longer have to wait for King Fulan or Bin Fulan or the dictator Fulan or the army general Fulan or the corrupt leader Fulan. We no longer have to rely on these bloodsuckers that have been sucking the blood of our people and our wealth for generation after generation. We no longer have to rely on them. For the first time, we are able to think together as an ummah. Mark my words, think together as an ummah. And if we can deliberately, not haphazardly, not accidentally, if we can deliberately begin to think together as an ummah, then we will be in a position to act together as an ummah. When 2 billion people begin to act together as an ummah, that is a recipe for historical change. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى كما ورد في القرآن الحكيم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم وقال جل وعلا وأمرهم شورى بينهم. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الدين النصيحة. قلنا لمن يا رسول الله؟ قال لله ولرسوله ولكتابه ولأئمة المسلمين وعامتهم. إن الله يأمركم بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله.